certainly looking at the evolution of hubs over time is critical because it's oftentimes, as in life, you kind of learn what not to do, what to do, and it's usually a leading driver of what happens in the future. So, Mike, like I mentioned in my intro, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, this was really the rise of specialty pharmaceuticals and access challenges, right? It was also, not shockingly, the rise of hubs at that point. They were born in the SP space. And that's really because the rise in cost and the access challenges were becoming something that the payers were wanting to manage. Of course, they were wanting to manage the cost side of it. But if you look at kind of the past PDUFA dates, this is the time frame when your high cost specialty medications really coming to the market. And quite frankly, it required a reaction by manufacturers. Manufacturers could no longer count on demand automatically contributing to or resulting in revenue. Patients were going without that first script being filled. Additionally, SPs had to figure out how to do things better. The good old days of pick, pack, and ship were long gone. Was much more so hands-on. And to your point, and what your company solves for today, Josh, this is really where that hands-on, very targeted, very supportive environment had to grow. So you kind of look at how we started, then you look at the expansion and standardization. So this is really where third parties started to see an opportunity to fill the void or fill the gap. For those that have been around for a long time, you'll remember the hub light model, the hub light terminology. And so hubs were trying to figure it out, and third parties said, "Hey, well, wait a minute, that's not a standard a specialty pharmacy practice. I can build that. We can do it." And so you really start seeing that. At that same time, manufacturers also saw an opportunity to say, "Hey, if it's not built yet, why don't I just build it in-house? Why don't I internalize and insource this model?" And so we saw a lot of that happening in that mid 2000s, early 2010s. And then you kind of come up on the 2010s, 2020s, and this is really where data, where technology really became critically impactful in the evolution of hub models along the way. And so those companies, tech companies, and even your data aggregators, particular data copay vendors, commercial copay vendors, really said, well, why not? Why don't I get into this space and then I can do it all? So it was kind of the era of the why not? Let's just bring everything in house from a vendor standpoint. So this was really the world of consolidation. This is where it began. And then we find ourselves where we are today, right? Present day. So now we've seen all this shifting over time. We've seen technology, we've seen advancements in data that are absolutely unbelievable and amazing. And the question becomes, what do we do with that today? So I think we'll continue to see this change over time of hub vendors and kind of how the services are integrated at the end of the day, whether you're talking outsourced, insourced, hybrid. But this is really a very exciting time in the industry.
That's great. Thank you so much for going through that, Melissa. And I think, where we've been will, as you said, will take us to where we are today, and then we'll talk a little bit about the future as well. As we explore the evolution of these hub models, it's essential to understand the different structures that have emerged to meet the diverse needs of these specialty and rare disease patient populations. So we have three primary models that we'll review. The first model is a fully in-source model. So that's a model where it's the organization, the pharmaceutical organization, is really doing, most if not all of these patient support functions internally. Now, on the other side of that, we have our fully outsourced model, and we'll talk more about that. And then we have a growing trend, and that is the hybrid model. And that's really where our focus is going to be because it is a big trend that Melissa and our organization see as well. But let's start with the fully in-source model. This offers complete control and quality assurance for a pharmaceutical company. This requires significant investment and robust internal infrastructure. The coordination internally is also very significant. However, it may face challenges. There's scalability challenges, there's feasibility challenges as well. Now, conversely, the fully outsourced model leverages specialized expertise and scalable capacity. So this frees those internal resources. It also helps to necessitate a strong collaboration with external partners. Like that's the key to this. So the flexibility is there. The control is a little lacking from this standpoint. In comes the hybrid model. So the hybrid model combines the strengths of both. So it integrates insourced and outsourced components. This is where real flexibility comes into play, as well as adaptability, especially in shifting markets. And we'll talk a little more about that. So this approach allows an organization to strategically focus on expertise that aligns with the patient, the business, and even the regulatory needs. Now, as the market evolves, hybrid models are increasingly favored for their ability to adapt, and especially to changing regulations and patient needs. So this really ensures that we maintain a solid core of hub capabilities while embracing innovation and integration. So, Melissa, with that, do you think there's a trend towards hybrid models? Well, I know you do, but tell us why this is happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've touched on a lot of the reasons why here in this slide, Josh, and in your talking points. I think the future is unknown. The future is very chaotic in this at this point in time. Whether you're looking at it from a political landscape, whether you're looking at it from an economic standing, and so hybrid is the way to go. I couple that uncertainty of the future in our industry along with the fact that, every brand, every manufacturer is so extremely different. I think, we used to think of things as very broad buckets. We used to look at things with a very broad brush and say, okay, well, if it's this patient population, then you need X, Y, and Z. And I think, I use the 80-20 rule. 80% of what I do for every brand, I take to the next brand because there are some fundamental things that are consistent. But that 20% is the most critical aspect, although it represents a smaller percentage of the pie. Not one size is going to fit all in today's environment. You can have two products in the same class, but have very different needs depending upon your label. Your internal needs could be very different depending upon, are you a public company or are you a private company? Um, to your point earlier, a lot of the marketplaces today are extremely competitive. So, how many of the competitors are there? What's your size in comparison to those as an organizational standpoint? What's your market share needs? What is your definition of success? And so, all of those variabilities, just to say that indeed there is not a one size fits all, even if you have two products in the same class. So, this hub model does give you that scalability and protects you from the uncertainty.
Yeah. The other thing, Melissa, is integration. So integration, because now you're bringing in there's different partners, there you have internal systems. Um, and we see this with the clients that we're working with, how unbelievably critical integration is, and that is how you are essentially how data is flowing, and being able to get as much of a real time sense of what's going on for a particular patient. So what we see is that patient support programs that use these hybrid models can really help to reduce any kind of abandonment, like first script abandonment, and also increase persistency if they're doing this right. So to do this effectively, you really need to focus on data integration as being like a core aspect of the implementation, as well as ongoing through the program to make sure it's optimized and doing what you need it to do. This is the cornerstone of how these programs are going to work very well. In these various models, the ability to seamlessly connect and analyze data from multiple sources is absolutely crucial. And this is also what helps to drive personalization. It helps to drive the proactive interventions that we've been talking about. Those are some of the keys to help those patients stay on therapy. Um, you also get the qualitative side of it. You get comprehensive insights into essentially patient behaviors, into their adherence, even into the outcome side of things. So this really helps to bring about more breadth and learning about what's going on so that you can use that to inform, really critical decisions of how you support patients. You kind of talked a little bit about this, Melissa. It's consolidation. So a lot of these partners, the solution providers that are offering these types of services, we're seeing consolidation right now. There's different companies coming together, merging, acquisition, things like that. This is happening within hubs, copays, other partners. What impact does this consolidation have on their ability to deliver strong patient support programs?
Yeah, consolidation is fantastic if it can be done correctly, but it is a heavy, heavy lift. For companies to come together and truly be integrated, to your point, Josh, and in the absolute critical nature of integration. That's usually a 3 to 5 year time frame. So just because somebody consolidates today does not mean that you're going to get that consolidated experience the next day. It takes time. And that's not, a negative against anybody. It's just you're bringing systems together. Obviously, you've got multiple facets. I mean, let's just talk about legal and compliance. You're going to have 20 different opinions that you need to figure out as a now combined organization. What is your stance on certain things, and what do you need to have in place maybe that you haven't had in the past? So I would say that consolidation in whole is great. Early on, though, it will feel, and you have to keep reminding yourself, it will feel like you have multiple partners. And so, from someone in my chair, I say you go into it with open eyes and understand what it really means and how that can shift in a very positive way over time. But if it's a recent consolidation, then you may feel like you're dealing with different partners, which is fine. But again, integration at that point, to whatever extent it can be done, is absolutely critical to be successful, whether it's a consolidated model or not.